Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be my review for The Vampire Diaries, Season 6, Episode 5, The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. And that was the perfect title for this episode, definitely. And this episode was by far the best episode of the season, definitely. And I knew this episode was going to be crazy because, one, this episode had a party, which we know on the show, when this show has a party, that it is extremely crazy, and that shit's going to go down. We know that for a fact because that always ends up happening. Two, this episode actually closed up Ivy with, with the Ripper thing and everything. That also, was happening. Three, this episode ended up closing a lot of storylines. Like, this episode closed a lot of storylines. It advanced the plot forward a lot. We got a really great return. We got probably the best ending of this season so far. Definitely the best ending of any episode of this season so far was in this episode. And overall, I love this episode. Thought it was fantastic. And let's just get to it because I thought it was just really, really good. So Stefan's cell phone is vibrating, and he takes a call from Tripp, who thanks him for turning Enzo over. Now, of course, we know that the two of them are working together, and Stefan is surprised to hear that Enzo's actually alive, which I was surprised about because I thought that, since he was, what happened to him, I thought they were just going to go ahead and kill him and stake him, but no, that's not what they're doing. They're not killing him, but however, we're not really seeing much of Enzo, which I do like, because it's very mysterious what's going on with him. Basically, Tripp says he was told some vamps have moved on to Savannah, so he sends some of his men to investigate, and Stefan hears a noise, goes down to find Ivy has trashed the place. And she tells him she killed his boss, Dean, when he was trying to bury her in the woods, which is huge, because basically, we know that he was working for that guy, and now he's not, because obviously his boss is dead, so that definitely is very interesting, and closes out that storyline, basically. So, she asks why he's not helping her, and he says he's trying to, and right away we get a really great scene with Ivy. I gotta say, the girl that plays Ivy is really, really good. I thought she did a great job in this episode, and she was really, really good. So, she's saying how she's dead because he lied to her, and Enzo killed her to punish him, and she rants and says her emotions are heightened because she's a vampire now, and she says she's a killer now, and that all she has to look forward to, and it's all her fault. And it's really sad to see because she never wanted to be a vampire, She's not a Ripper, by the way, she's a vampire. I thought she was going to be a Ripper, just because the way, she was introduced, I thought she was going to be a Ripper, but it turns out, no, she's just a vampire, and she's very, very bloodthirsty. That's what's going on, is that she's a vampire, but she's very bloodthirsty, and I thought this was a very good scene, because, of course, we know why Enzo killed Ivy, because he was trying to prove to Stefan, asking him, who do you really care about? Who do you really care about here? Do you really care about Ivy that much? And we know why he did that. So, Ivy's telling him that, basically it's his fault that she died, which is completely true, and I agree definitely what Ivy is saying there, and I thought that was definitely a very good scene. So she attacks him, he snaps her neck since she can't be reasoned with, and Stefan shows up to Caroline's digging a large trunk and explains that Enzo changed her and changed her, and, she's very surprised to see Ivy alive, of course, and Ivy's complaining that they think Stefan broke her neck and shoved her into a truck. He asks Caroline to babysit her while he goes to get Luke to make her a daylight ring, because, of course, she needs a daylight ring, because obviously if she wants to survive, she needs a daylight ring. So, Caroline says it's his mess, but he tells her if she left him alone, this never would have happened. And Stefan says Tripp sent vampire hunters to Savannah so they couldn't stay there. And Stefan is flattering her and says if anyone can teach her self-control, it's Caroline. And you can definitely see that the two of them have a lot of chemistry. I mean, definitely, after that whole thing with what Caroline said about Stefan, I really do feel the two of them are going to get together. I just have this strong feeling. You can tell they're going to get together. They have so much chemistry on the show. The two actors together definitely have a lot of chemistry, and I could definitely see the two of them getting together. So, basically, we see that, Stefan, she agrees, and he says if she will help, he'll go, and she'll never have to see him again. She asks if that's what he really thinks she wants. He leaves, and Ivy asks when they can eat. Now, of course, we know that's not what he wants. So, Alaric is then lecturing about the local homecoming party tradition. When he said that, I'm like, okay, definitely this episode's going to be intense. And he talks about a Civil War soldier who came home and found his wife in bed with his brother, and then murdered his brother and chased his cheating wife out into the cornfield. And Tyler, in the meantime, while this is going on, is cheating, is, flirting with Liv, and asks her out, and she turns him down cold. When, she's turning him down. She's still playing very hard to get. And Alaric is saying that the woman who's Lady Whitmore is rumored to haunt the cornfields on this day. By the way, was I the only one that was, like, shocked out of my mind when he said Whitmore? Because, of course, Whitmore refers to Wes and Aaron Whitmore. Of course, the Whitmores were the ones that, you know, were the main villains last year. That has nothing to do with this, but I'm just saying, I thought that was interesting that they used the word Whitmore. So basically, he says the moral is to never fall in love with your brother's wife. And after class, Alaric asks Elena if she's changed her mind about getting her memories of Damon back, because he really wants to help her with this. He wants her to get her memories back. He wants her to be back to normal, because you know, even though Elena knows this information that, you know, she had this love affair, you know, that she loved Damon and, you know, they were together and everything, she still cannot believe it. Like, she still thinks of him as a, you know, she still refers to him as a serial killer. It's really sad to see, definitely. So, basically, she tells him he needs a life, and, you know, she's telling Alaric that he needs a life and says to change his shirt and show up at the event. And she also asks Liam to come to the corn maze. Now, of course, Liam is that new guy who she really likes, and she says he needs some fun. He agrees to go. She says she has more people to invite, and he asks if she's inviting more dates. And she says it's about the fun and whose date she is depends on him. Now, here's what I'll say about Liam. I like these two together. I do. But I really see Elena and Liam more as friends. I really do. I mean, I like them together. I think they, you know, are good together. But they are not Delana. They're not Delana. Delana's always going to be the big couple of the show. They're always going to be the power couple of the show. And I agree with what many people are saying. Without Delana, the show would not be as good as it is, really. And that's the thing that makes the show so good. So I definitely agree that basically if she were to include, like, I understand what she's doing. You know, she's basically trying to invite Liam to this so she doesn't think of Damon. That's what she's doing. So I understand why she's doing that, but at the same time, like, she needs to include Damon in her life, because Damon is very important and, you know, should matter to her, definitely, though he doesn't. So basically, Damon's whistling as he and Bonnie are walking through the woods. He's happy at the prospect of seeing Elena, because he pretty much knows that this is going to be their final day here. They know that they're going to get out of here. He says he wants to take her to dinner. It's going to be really sad when he finds out that she doesn't think of him that way anymore. And she's not sure she can work the cell, and is worried sociopath Kai is going to double-cross them. Because, of course, you know, Kai, while he does want to come back with them, he told them very simply last week, look, either you're coming with me, either I'm coming with you, or I'm killing you. That's what he said he's doing. So, Bonnie definitely is very threatened by this. And Damon says he'll kill Kai or anyone who comes between him and getting back to Elena. And Kai tells Damon he has to dig down to the tunnels and explains how the spell will work with the eclipse. He heads to town to get supplies, leaves him in the woods prepping, and, I thought that was definitely very intense, the way they did that. So Ivy comes out wearing her dress, and Caroline tells her she can't go to the party tonight. Caroline's complaining about Stefan ignoring her for months, then using her when he needs help. And Ivy tells Caroline she needs to admit she has feelings for Stefan, which I thought was great. I love that everyone's just saying, look, you two have so much chemistry. Ever since Lexi, people have been referring to, you know, talking to Caroline and Stefan, saying you two have so much chemistry. I mean, that's just going to continue to be a thing until these two get together. And Ivy's very confident she's got her vampire skills down. She wants to go. But Caroline says she has to wait for Stefan. And Ivy asks if they can play a board game while they wait. And Caroline goes to get Scrabble. And Ivy snaps her neck. And that was really crazy, definitely. And I was not expecting that. And you can definitely see that, as I said. She's definitely is bloodthirsty. She's desperate for blood. She wants blood. And that's what matters to her, is blood right now. That's what she wants. So, basically, that's what's happening here. So then we see Lady Whitmore runs bleeding through the corn maze in terror. She has a torch and lights the pyre, and the Whitmore students are cheering. It's a historical reenactment that sets off the festivities of homecoming. And Liam sees Joe there and asks what's up with that. And Elena tells him she invited her because, of course, she thinks that Joe and Alaric have chemistry, which I agree with. I think these two really do like each other, and it'd be good to see Alaric do that because, you know, he's been through so much shit in his life. He talked to, you know, Jeremy about this in the last episode. He's been through so much in his life that I'd love to see him get an interest. I think it'd be great to see. So she drags him off to have fun in the maze, and Caroline calls Stefan and leaves a third message telling him Ivy went rogue, and if she kills anyone, it's on him. And Stefan shows up to Alaric's and finds him drinking, and he says he came for a daylight ring and explains that Enzo turned his girlfriend from Savannah, and Alaric is annoyed with him for lying to him about trying to help Damon and Bonnie, you know, to help get Damon and Bonnie back. And I agree, Alaric has a reason to be upset with that, because Stefan has done nothing with that. he has not done one thing when trying to look for Damon and Bonnie, because as we know, he pretty much thinks they're not coming back. He's pretty much figured, look, they're not, I don't think they're coming back, and everyone needs to accept that. So I understand, obviously, why he's upset about that. I can understand that, definitely. So he asks him to compel Ivy to get her in line, but Alaric isn't having it. He says he forgot Damon so easily, but says he can't since they were best friends. And he threatens to compel Stefan to be the guy he was and not the jerk he's become. Because you have to remember, Damon and Alaric were best friends. They were very good friends. They were the best of friends. So he obviously, misses Damon a lot, but this was Stefan's brother we're talking about. And he's not really, showing any sort of remorse or anything, and we've seen him grieve over him before, but at this point, it doesn't seem like he really cares. So, Ivy feeds on a guy, then tries to compel him, but she can't. She then realizes she's still hungry and tells him to run. He does, and Bonnie tells Damon there's a good chance he's digging his own grave, but that he then breaks through to the tunnels below. And Damon looks through the bag of stuff Kai brought. And he said he has some, drinks, a rookie card, and a pager. And Bonnie says they aren't doing anything else until she sees a spell. He doesn't offer it up, and she tells him to take her magic if he wants to do without her. She dares him to take all her magic. He grabs her up. Bonnie tells Damon it's okay and says he won't kill her. Damon tells him to stop. He lets her go. Bonnie tells Damon that he doesn't want the spell, so they don't need him. She magics an axe into his chest, and she kills Kai. That was just awesome. I'm like, okay, that was definitely really awesome there. When we get badass Bonnie, I love that. I mean, Bonnie's a character that a lot of people used to think was really annoying, and I just love that they've made her such a badass. That's one of the things I definitely love about Bonnie, and I thought that was great work. Basically, Damon tells her great work and walks off in disgust. It was really funny to watch that. It was great, because Kai's done so much to them. It's great to see them defeat him. However, it did seem pretty abrupt to me. I'm like, okay, so they just killed him like that? That doesn't make any sense. There was a part of me that's like, I don't think he's dead, which we'll talk about. So, Elena and Liam are lost in the corn maze, but he says he knows where they are. He asks if he's her type, but she says no, but then says people can change. He thinks she's still hung up on her ex, but she says he died, and he says he's sorry. He thought Stefan was her, was her ex, which he is, but she cares more about Damon, and says his name was Damon. She says tonight is about them, though. They head deeper into the maze. Joe is then startled by a student and then screams, and then Alaric shows up and laughs, teasing her. He asks if she's seen Elena, and she says she blackmailed him into coming. And turns out she said the same to Joe. And he says she set them up, and she asks him to take her out of there for a drink stat. And he offers his flask, and they walk up together. I love that Elena just set these two up. Elena had a perfect plan there. These two had a lot of chemistry, and I can see why she definitely wanted to set them up. I can definitely see that. I mean, they definitely, as I said, have a lot of chemistry, and I really like seeing that a lot. So, basically, then we see that Tyler gets a text saying the party is lame, and the guy Ivy had been drinking from steps out in front of him, veers off the road, plows in the corn maze. The students go screaming off. Alaric shouts out, "Watch out!" grabs Joe to pull her aside, and Tyler climbs out of the wreckage and freaks, and he looks around for the guy and hears him groaning. The guy's choking on his own blood. This is really intense here. He asks Tyler for help. Liam is helping treat an injured girl and calls to Elaine to help him. She tells him she has it, but Liam says there's not much she can do for the girl who is bleeding profusely and from her stomach. She tells him to go help someone else, and he does, and she bites her wrist, offers her the blood. She compels the girl to think, and I thought this was interesting, she compels her to think she got out of the way and to take others with her. I find it interesting that every single girl that she sees, she just bites them and makes them turn into a vampire. So, I really think that's interesting. My only complaint with that is that I really hope they don't just turn all these random characters into vampires, because I want to see some characters die. I don't want to see every character live. I really don't. So, Tyler calls Elena and tells her he needs her. He says it was his truck and says if the guy dies, he'll be a werewolf again. She tells him others are hurt. She coaches him on first and says she'll be there soon but has to go find Alaric. So Joe thinks Alaric is bleeding, but he says it's not his blood. She wraps her bloody arm, which is tempting him, and tells him to call 911. And Stefan finally shows up to meet Caroline and admits he was leaving town without Ivy. And I thought this was a great scene what happened here. With, basically she's really pissed at Stefan, which is understandable, definitely. She's ranting that she can't believe he was dumping his vampire ex on her, then sneaking out of town. She asks who he is, and he says he's someone who's trying to start over. He says he put the daylight ring under his door, and Caroline says a month ago she wished for Damon to come back so she could have the old Stefan back, but says now she just wants him to get back in his car and go. So, he does, and she wants nothing to do with him. She basically just tells him, look, I want nothing to do with you, which makes complete sense, because, he's become a douchebag, really, he has. He's become a complete asshole, nobody likes him, and I understand why he's doing that. So, Ivy calls Caroline, says she's sorry, and she said she did something bad, and Caroline very casually mentions how she broke her neck earlier, and Ivy says in that case she did 2 bad things, and Caroline tells her to stay put, and says she's coming for her. So Damon's drinking the Zima from Kai's bag and tells her it's not too bad. He says it's fruity. She tells him to shut up and says she's thinking. He says she made a douche kebab out of their only way out. She says they wouldn't have given the only prisoner a key. She says her grams told her to stay strong, and she wondered if that was her way of telling her she could get herself out using the power of the eclipse. And Bonnie has the ascent in her hand, says some magic words, and it opens. She says Kai need a Bennett to open it. She tells Damon she's going home and asks if he's coming along. And Tyler is trying to help the guy that he has hit, and then Liv is there, magics the car off him. She asks what happened, and he tells her about the accident. He says if the guy dies, his curse is activated, and he asks her to call Elena again. So, really, really intense stuff here, and I was loving all this really intense stuff going on. I thought this was really awesome, definitely. Definitely out of all of the, like, really crazy party episodes, this was definitely up there with the best ones, in my opinion, because this was just crazy. So, Alaric's calling ambulances. They're on their way. Joe asks him to help stop bleeding on one of the victims. She tells him she was in the army out of med school, and that she's seen this bad and worse, and Elena shows up and asks Joe to help Tyler. And Elena puts the call on speaker, and Joe asks some questions. Liv says the fluid came out of his mouth that is black, and she tells them to take his hand and keep him comfortable until he dies, and Tyler's stunned, and Liv takes the guy's hand as Joe requested, and I like seeing that really this is Elena and all those people, like, caring for them. It's not, like, very intense. It's intense because we know these people could die any second. Even though it's no one major, it's really intense because you want them to live and everything. I think that's really well done. I really like the way they did that. So, Bonnie and Damon are then in the tunnels, and Bonnie cuts her hand to get some blood to put on the Ascendant, and she starts an incantation. And she tells Damon it's time, and he comes over to close to her and says, let's get awkward, puts his hand under hers on the Ascendant. He says he knows she'd rather not be there with him. She smiles and goes down with a wound. Damon turns, finds that Kai is there, so he's not dead. I knew he wasn't. I knew that, you know, Kai wasn't going to be dead. And he shot Bonnie with a crossbow. He asked Damon if they're going somewhere. And Kai tells him he tried to kill himself before lots of time in lots of ways. He tells Damon if he touches the Ascendant, the next arrow goes right to his heart. And Damon speeds over to Bonnie, yanks out the arrow, gives her some blood, then he races over to Kai, pins him when he tries to go for the Ascendant. Tyler tries to do CPR on the guy, but Liv tells him to stop, and Tyler's very horrified that he'll become a wolf again. He's very worried that this is going to happen because he's human now, and he doesn't want to become a werewolf again. He's happy being human. Plus, of course, he's going through that thing where he's having a hard time controlling his anger. So, Liv's grabbing the guy, holds his mouth and nose so that technically he wasn't the one, and I thought this was a very good twist. Basically, she is making it seem like that he wasn't the one who killed him, that she was, because he wasn't dead, she basically just killed him. You know, she basically made him suffocate and he died, and I thought that was great. It really shows that, yes, she does care about him. And I knew deep down she did, but really this episode confirms that, yes, she does care about him. So Liam's working on a patient that he says he can't be saved, and Elena says she can help, and he says he's going to track the woman. Elena bites her arm to give her blood, but he cuts into the woman's throat, puts in a tube, and she's breathing. She's totally impressed, and, you know, she's very impressed by what he's doing and how good he is and how experienced he is with this. I myself was impressed. I mean, Liam really is very good at what he's doing. So emergency workers are finally there, and Liam loads Elena into a car, and then looks at all the people walking away out of the cornfield, and he seems surprised at how many people are okay. So Damon and Kai are struggling. Kai stabs him with an arrow, and Damon tells him to get out, but instead, basically, you know, Damon's telling Bonnie to get out because, you know, if she gets out, everything will be okay because of the magic and everything, and instead, she ends up, and I really love what Bonnie did here, she magics Kai off Damon, throws Damon the Ascendant that says an incantation. Damon's gone. He's going back into the real world. He's going to be resurrected. He's coming back to life. The Ascendant falls to the floor of the tunnel and breaks. Bonnie smiles and collapses in pain and exhaustion, and Bonnie's officially dead. And I thought that was great the way they did that. I thought that was a very good way to end her plot, definitely. And the thing I loved about that was it really reminded me of what Lexi did for Stefan, Bonnie did with Damon. Definitely, the way that Lexi and Stefan were best friends, I think Bonnie and Damon have become best friends, definitely. And I really like seeing that. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I really think Bonnie has turned into Lexi. She really has. So at the hospital, Jo is telling Rick he's brave, funny, and the most attractive man she's ever met. She says she thinks she was meant to know him. She says he should say something or kiss her. And he says she's amazing and brilliant and very sexy. And he says he would love that they were meant to be, but says tonight was a disaster. He compels her, and basically he's compelling her to think that he was boring and a borderline alcoholic and that she's not attracted at all. She agrees with disaster, and he's an alcoholic, but then she kisses him anyway and says he's far from boring. So he's kind of wondering why this didn't work out. Now, in my opinion, I think I know why this didn't work out. Because I think that Jo is not, I think that Jo is an immortal. I think she's either a vampire or a werewolf or something. I don't know what she is, but I don't think that she is just a human, because obviously, if she was a human, he would have been able to compel her and everything would be fine. However, she's clearly not a human, because if she was a human, then he would have been able to compel her, and it would have worked. So, I definitely feel that Jo is not a human, in my opinion. I think that's what's going on there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. So, Ivy calls Caroline, tells her she's almost there, she's going to go to Caroline and everything, but then she sees a car and waves it down, but it's not Caroline, it's Tripp, and I'm like, oh no, what is going to happen here? Because of course we know that Tripp is killing vampires. He asks, excuse me, he asks if she needs help, and she says she's fine. He gets closer, she's about to bite him, he shoots her in the chest, and she collapses, and he puts her in the van. Caroline pulls up and sees this all go down, and definitely Caroline is going to go after Tripp. I definitely feel she's going to. But a lot of people said because of this, Caroline's probably going to die. I definitely could see that happening. I know a lot of people have said that they think Caroline's going to die this year. I could see that happening definitely. Because on the poster, Caroline's on the side where Damon and Bonnie were. So I don't know if Caroline's going to die, but I think that could definitely happen. I don't want it to happen, but I definitely think it's a possibility. So, Liam asks Elena how the girl playing Lady Whitmore went from almost dead to up and fine. She says miracles happen, then she kisses him to distract him, and she tells him he was a draw-dropping hero tonight and says that's her type. He's pleased and distracted, and then we see a scene with Liv and Tyler, and basically he tells her that everyone else lived, but she doesn't want to talk about it, and he says she can't pretend she didn't kill someone tonight, but she says she can. She's upset. He tells her the guy was dead and couldn't be saved, so she saved him instead. And I thought that was really good what he said. He tells her again that she saved him and he can't repay her for that, but promises her that he won't waste it, and I thought that was great. And then we get to the end of the episode, which I loved the end of the episode. I thought the end of the episode was just amazing. The way they ended was so, so good. So Stefan goes to his family crib with a bottle of booze and looks around. He laughs and says, yep, this is happening. He says the whole family is there except Damon. He says he's not doing great with that. We finally see him have a genuine moment of him grieving over Damon. He says that he's not doing great without him. He says he keeps trying to start over but can't seem to go anywhere. He says he's lost without his brother. He's basically on the verge of just like crying here. He throws a bottle of bourbon and then we see Damon pick it up and catches it. It was the perfect moment because Stefan is in like such misery right now. He's in such pain. The perfect time for Damon to come back. Like, they could not have picked a better time for Damon to come back than right now. So Damon says it's not okay to waste a good bottle of bourbon. Stefan is in absolute shock. Damon walks closer, then tells him it's a long story, but says he's back and calls him brother. Stefan still can't believe it, then grabs his shoulder, pulls him in for a hug. They're both teary as they embrace, and that was probably one of the best returns the show has done. Now, am I upset that they brought Damon back? No, because Damon being back makes a lot of things very, it makes me really looking forward to a lot of things. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the very first confrontation between Damon and Elena, because Elena does not have those feelings for Damon like he does for her right now. And he doesn't realize that Alaric compelled Elena to forget about Damon. So, it's going to be interesting to definitely see what happens there. It's definitely going to be very awkward between them. I can't wait to see what happens with Ivy as well. Definitely Caroline is going after Tripp. I could definitely see that happening because Caroline this season has been in very much, figuring out things. She's been much more of a badass this season. Ever since the finale, she definitely has been a badass, and I really love that about her character. Bonnie, I think, is gone officially. I think this confirms that Bonnie is done from the show. She left. She had Damon leave on his own. I think this confirms that Bonnie is gone from the show. I don't think she's coming back. And that's fine, but here's the thing. Bonnie can't come back. That means anyone that dies on the show is going to die permanently, which makes sense because I feel like the show's only going to last for one more season, and it actually makes the stakes even higher because if someone dies, they're not coming back because the only person that can bring people back is Bonnie. That's why Damon came back, because she can bring him back. So that's going to be interesting to definitely see what happens there. Jo and Alaric, I really like them together, but I definitely feel that Jo is immortal. I do not feel that she is just a normal human because his mind trick obviously didn't work, and, that definitely is going to be interesting to see what happens there. And I guess Liam and Elena, here's the thing with them. I like them together. I think they're good friends, but I don't want to see them any more than friends. I don't want to see them become the next Delana. Delana is my number one by far. And that's because the show wants us to root for them. As I've said, I will be Delana or Stelena. Whatever the show wants us to root for, I'm game with. I'm fine with that. I don't care whether they want us to root for Delana or Stelena. I like Stefan and Elena. I like Damon and Elena. Either way, I think they're both really good. I mean, they're both really good characters. They're both really good for Elena, you know, and I'm fine with Damon and Elena. I'm fine with Stefan and Elena as well. I'm fine with that, definitely. However, I do want to see Damon and Elena, you know, be handled well before I see Stefan and Elena. I'm happy they didn't rush into that. Also, Caroline, I really hope that Caroline soon admits that she does have these feelings for Stefan. I like that they keep getting to that reveal. I definitely feel we're going to get to that eventually. I'm interested to see what's going to happen there. Liv and Tyler, this officially confirms that she cares for him, and I definitely think that they are going to be very close to getting together, and I really love everything that's going on in this episode. This episode was amazing. I loved it. No Jeremy or Sarah's advancement. No advancement in that plot. I feel the next episode we're getting advancements in that. It looks like the next episode is going to be extremely crazy. Really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there, but I will see you guys in my next video. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Was it too early for Damon to come back? I feel like maybe he should have came back in the mid-season finale, but I personally didn't have a problem with that. I thought it was perfectly handled, and I loved it. That's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. See you guys in my next video, which will be my review for, actually, I believe, a movie review. I think, because I do have a movie to watch. I'm probably going to watch it tonight. Either tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. We'll have to see. But, yeah, so I will see you guys in my next video, because there's not going to be any videos up tomorrow because it's Halloween and there's nothing on tomorrow. No Girl Meets World. I'm not watching Constantine, so I have nothing to really watch tomorrow, so I guess I'll just see you guys for whatever my next video is going to be, because I have no idea what it's going to be. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.